Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Shifsky. I am the Vice President of Kaplan Real Estate Education, and I'm here today for our Real Experts webinar. Our title today is Beyond the Gut Feeling, How Market Statistics Drive Real Estate Success. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Cooper Thayer from Colorado. Hello, Cooper.
Hey, Toby, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're here. And if you guys don't know, let me give you a little background on who Cooper is. So Cooper Thayer is a Colorado-based realtor, uh, and his real estate market, and he's what's that? So you're not only a realtor, but you're also a real estate market analyst, right? Known for translating complex housing data into clear, actionable insights. And as chief market strategist for Keller Williams Colorado region and market trends spokesperson for the Colorado Association of Realtors, he briefs thousands of residential sales. I'm sorry, he briefs thousands of professionals on pricing, inventory, and housing trends. With over 350 million in closed residential sales, his analytical background spans brokerage, finance, and economics. Cooper's work has been featured on ABC, Denver 7, Fox 31, and Denver Post, and he regularly speaks at statewide summits and legislative events on housing dynamics and market forecasting. Cooper, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Toby. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and so excited that I've had all of those different opportunities. And really, I think that my passion for market trends and market data has just given me so many opportunities in the real estate world, apart from being, an active practicing broker that is just unmatched. So I'm super excited to share, some of my insights, some of my experience and advice with the Kaplan family here.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. Like I said, your bio is just jam-packed for a guy. Look at the studio behind you. I'm excited for this today. I think we're going to get into a lot of details. I think we're going to get a lot of insight. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to just put us straight up and center. So Cooper, in your experience, what's the single biggest risk agents take when they rely only on intuition instead of like balancing it with hard data? Because this is the core of where we're at. We're trying to understand how stats, statistics, data, real life facts should play into the business when I think a lot of people, we both believe, kind of play it by their gut. What do you
Yeah, I mean, you see this especially with tenured, industry professionals. There's a big difference, in my opinion, between experience and expertise. And those with a lot of experience tend to rely on the gut feeling, right? They understand from their experiences, from their, maybe dozens or hundreds or thousands of transactions, how things go. But that does not work for everybody. And what I like to focus on in my career is expertise. Because I'm young, I'm only 24. I started in real estate at 18 years old. I got my license right the 2 days after I turned 18. I went to
Nice.
college, was working part time with my family, and I just didn't have experience. So, in order to differentiate myself without experience, because you can't force experience, experience is time. Uh, I decided to lean into expertise and try to become, the number one market expert on Colorado, on Denver Metro. Um, so the risk of relying on intuition for those that don't have the experience is that your gut feeling doesn't scale. The gut feeling is only as good as your last transaction. It's only as good as what you know from interacting with, the couple clients that you've interacted with in the past month or the past couple months. The market doesn't care about your last transaction. The market cares about the data, the facts, and real hard numbers and analysis. So, intuition can be helpful for us for sure, but really leaning into that expertise is what I believe can really set you apart, especially as an early career agent.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. I love your genesis. 18 getting licensed. I wish I would have got my license when I was 18. I bet I'd be a lot younger now. So that's fantastic. And the fact that you kind of jumped on the data, well, that's a really interesting perspective, which is you're not going to have experience. So if you're fresh into this business, so what are you going to have? And I think what I just heard you say is you actually can have it all because there's data available. And I think we're going to show people where to go to get some data later, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think in a little bit we'll dive into some places where you can find a lot of those resources. But I mean, you've got it exactly right. The risk isn't necessarily, I'm gonna price this home wrong. I'm gonna, advise a buyer to maybe offer more than they should on a home. Those are real risks, but I mean, the true risk in not understanding and not relying on data is lost client relationships, lost
Um,
professional relationships. It really, really matters for your credibility to know your stuff.
well, and there's that trap. So I've been licensed for well, since 1991. What is that? 30 some years, right? And so I did get my license when I was 25, but I wish I would have got it when I was 18. So since 1991, and uh, there's a trap when you just rely on your gut, right? I mean, I think what I find with experience is I can relate to people very easily. I can understand their situation. I can figure out all the variables. But there are many situations where you can get into, and when you trust your gut, you can get burned, especially if you're going into an area just adjacent to where you're the real expert and you trusted your gut instead of really knowing. I mean, I think it's a trap in some ways, just trusting your gut.
Exactly. And Toby, here's another angle that's really interesting. When the market turns and things get a little tougher, like they have today in a lot of places, I'm in Colorado where I have been characterizing us as in a buyer's market for about 12 months now.
Yeah.
I know we have some folks in Florida in a similar kind of market, but when
Yeah.
things get tougher, people get desperate and people try new things. And my gut when I walk into a listing appointment is I want this listing, right? I want this seller to sign the listing paperwork with me. I want to represent them. I want to try to sell this house. But everyone else's gut is that too. And what people resort to in those listing appointments is oftentimes, what we call buying the listing. Uh, and what I can tell you is when you walk into a listing appointment armed with the data and the facts, and you're able to explain and analyze and synthesize that data and present it in a digestible way to a seller, 9 times out of 10, they appreciate that more than the
Gut.
realtor down the street that's going to come and say, "Hey, I bet I can sell it for more than the other guy."
I love that. I love that. Well, let's do this because you said an interesting phrase, which was, "I'm going to buy the listing."
Yes.
For those who've been in the industry for all of you know what that means. That means you give the highest price you think the home's going to sell for, because the owners, of course, want to sell it for a lot, so they pick you as the selling agent. Um, we have a lot of people in here who may be fresh into the industry. Let's do this. I'm going to ask a quick poll question with everybody. If you'd play along, if you're on your phones, you may have to swipe a screen to go to this poll question, but I'm going to do a poll question. Once again, all of our poll questions answers are anonymous, so we don't see your name tied to it. In the chat, everybody, you can go ahead and chat. We'll be watching chat a little bit. I know Jamie Cash is helping us with the chat also. But I'm going to ask a poll question. Those are anonymous. Nobody sees your name. Love it if you could answer honestly. And we're going to find out who's in the audience today, right now. So let's do this. Everybody take a look. That poll question should have popped up for you. I always answer, or I always share the answers, Cooper, so everybody gets to see. So how long have you had your real estate license? How about this? We're going to have oh yeah, we got a nice chunk of people who are actually taking their classes right now at Kaplan. They're licensing.
Nice.
How great is
I'll tell
that?
you, mine is very easy to keep track of. Since I got my license right around my birthday, I can track it with my age. So I can tell you I'm coming up right on 6.5 years as of
Nice.
today. Today's my half birthday, actually. So almost exactly 6.5 years today has been
That's
I've been
fantastic.
licensed.
Well, here we go. So we got currently taking classes, less than 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and 10 plus years. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, everybody. And here we go. And I'm going to share the results. You should be able to see it. Look at this. We got 37% of the people are actually sitting in their licensing courses right now.
Awesome.
Less than 3 years, 30%. 3 to 5 years, 7%. 5 to 10 years, 8%. They get 10 plus years. We got 11% of the people in here are 10 plus years. You're going to get something out of this too. And you 10-year people with all you savvy, love it if you see some of your comments in the chat as we go along here, kind of, yay or hey, nay, I find something different, and we'll add it to the discussion. How about this? 7% of the people in here, they're looking at getting their license. They're just thinking about it. And so thank you for being here. Once again, Kaplan, we offer all the licensing, continuing education, and insights into expertise in a marketplace that you're going to need if you're going to be a professional agent. So let's go this. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's jump into the next question,
Sure.
Cooper. If an agent, could only track two or three statistics to become a true market expert, which, because there's thousands of statistics, which
Yeah.
ones would you recommend, and why do you think they're so critical for like pricing and advising clients? Which ones do you look at?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, if you remember back to, your high school economics class, the one thing that probably stuck with you is a chart that looks like a big X, the supply and demand graph.
Yeah.
And real estate is one of the best true examples in the world of a market that really follows supply and demand. So everything that I look at, you know, in terms of the advanced statistics and everything, it all comes back to supply and demand. So one of the things that I track, in my opinion, the best measure of supply is not what I call nominal inventory. Nominal inventory is the number of homes on the market at any given time. It's a good number to kind of give us a month over month or tell us a little bit about how many listings are on the market compared to last year. It's a useful tool. But what I really like to look at is months of supply. Months of supply is a really interesting metric because it takes the number of homes on the market and it essentially asks the question, if no new homes came on the market right now, but we still had all of our current inventory and buyers kept buying at the pace that they've been buying, how long is it going to take to clear all that inventory out? We call that months supply of inventory. So you've probably heard, the old adage was, up to 6 months was a seller's market, 6 months was a balanced market, more than 6 months was a buyer's market. My opinion, things are a little bit faster today. From my experience, I can tell you that, especially here in Denver, anything over 4 months is probably a buyer's market. 3 to 4 is probably balanced, but it varies greatly from market to market. But what's great about that supply, and it's a supply metric, but it also accounts for demand. So it can help us represent that graph, and you can
Mm,
see that it's often very strongly correlated with things like median close price in a market or the average percent of list price received
mm,
or the
mm.
number of days on the market on average. So it's a really useful tool to give you a baseline of what that supply and demand looks like.
So like during remember, 3, 4, 5 years ago during the kind of the COVID rage, 2021, right? What was that month's supply look like? I mean, do you remember? I mean,
Toby, in the peak of 2022,
yeah,
uh, in the spring of 2022, when things were absolutely insane in Denver here, our
yeah.
months of supply was measured in days, not weeks, not months. We got down to literally less than 10 days of supply.
So think about this. So that's a hot seller's market because,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
An
because
insane seller's market.
yeah,
Flying off the shelves. Our average list to close price, so the ratio of what sellers are asking compared to
yeah,
what they're actually or what people are buying, um, it was like 5 to 6% above
yeah.
list
List
price
price.
that entire year, our average. Yeah.
So and in this, we look at this whole supply and demand, and there's a question out there, and the question is America undersupplied right now? You look at these stats, and this would fall right in category of what's available, meaning have we built enough? Have we not? What do you think? Are we undersupplied right now?
Most places are. And there's an important differentiation there between the on-market supply and then what many people or economists refer to as the housing stock. So the
Ah,
housing stock is the number of homes that you have in a given area. That's the
correct.
housing stock. Where can people live, right? And we can measure that with for sale housing stock or for rent housing stock.
Got it.
And then we have our on-market. supply,
Okay.
which is how many homes are actually coming on the market for sale? How many homes are coming on the market for rent? What's available to people right now who are looking? And what we tend to have is, the supply of homes on the market varies greatly. It's very cyclical. It goes from days of inventory in psycho markets like we saw in 2022 to normal balanced levels of inventory, 3 or 4 months of inventory, like we have now in a lot of places. And that varies a lot. So I'm not going to say that there's too much or too little supply on the market, but the housing stock in most places is low. We have a shortage. I can tell you here in Colorado, I think we're about 100,000 units short from what would be considered a balanced equilibrium.
Healthy stock. I think of it like cows in a field. You have a herd. The herd's the whole stock, right? And you
Yes.
either have enough to feed the population or you don't, but you're only going to bring so many of them to market, right? And have them processed. And so those are on the market, and here's the stock. Do we have enough? We don't have enough. Somebody's going to have to go without, and nobody wants to go without. So when you put something on the market, people pay more for it, and that it's just like you said, supply and demand. Is there enough supply for what the perceived demand is? Okay, super cool. The Can agents translate? Some of this stuff can be pretty complex, some of these stats, right? I
Yes.
mean, how do agents look at this and look at like absorption rates and how do they translate that into simple storytelling? Because you can have all the greatest stats in the world, but if you come in, and you talk, and you can only, look into the numbers.
Yeah.
Generally, the home seller's not going to probably, jump on your bandwagon and ask you to work with them. You have to be able to tell the story to relate it. How can agents do that better?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is all about translation and your ability to present that information in a digestible way. I mean, real estate data is everywhere. It is so prevalent that it can just feel like information overload. So, to a seller, it's about breaking it down to their local market, what matters for them, and like you said, making it story driven. So, for example, you said absorption rate. Absorption rate is it's kind of another word for months of supply.
Yeah,
I would never say absorption rate to a client. I'd never walk into a
eyes are
listing
glazed
appointment and say,
over.
"Hey, the absorption rate in your neighborhood is 3.4 months." They'd look at me and their eyes would glaze over and they'd go, "What are you talking about?" What you say is, "Hey, in your neighborhood, we've got some data that looks at the past year of how many homes have sold and how many homes have come on the market. And at the current pace of buyers buying homes and new homes coming on the market, we would expect a home like yours to sell, once every 3 to 4 months. So here's what it means for your price."
Mm.
And when you turn the math into a story, uh, it becomes understandable and it builds credibility and it builds trust because they're not just glazed over and looking at you like you're speaking a different language, right? You got to translate it into their language.
So what I think I heard you say very, very eloquently is the stats alone don't get the deal done either, right?
Oh,
It's a great way to differentiate yourself, right? And I think we should talk a little bit about like, what do you think the most important statistic is in order for people to gain credibility and trust, and then you to get, as an agent, get to have happen what you need to happen, which is you don't take a listing that's overpriced like crazy with unrealistic expectations. I would like to talk about
yeah,
that. But how does well, let's just jump into that because I think that's even
yeah,
more.
yeah. Let's look at some examples. Let's dive
Yeah,
into the things and one of the things that I really like is the visual approach, right? We can talk at sellers, we can talk at buyers, we can try to explain things, but I'm a visual learner. I think a lot of people are visual learners and really need to kind of see to understand. So
yeah.
let's look at this is an insight that's interesting, that I think a lot of sellers like. And this looks like a complicated graph to start, but it's easy when you break it down. I would never present it to a seller like this. This is for agents. For sellers, I would present a simplified version. But what you're looking at is the idea that time is not money when it comes to selling a home. right? We all like to say time is money. When you're a home seller, time is the opposite of money. And this is the data that proves it. What we have here are two data series. The orange bar shows the number of closings. So that's just an N number for each days on market bucket. And the blue line, really importantly, is our net close price to original list price ratio. And I broke that down for you. That's on the numerator, the close price minus concessions is what
Yeah.
in my market we'd call a net close price. So we're taking into account seller concessions,
Yep.
and we divide that by the original list price. So what this metric gives us is it's a ratio of what is a seller actually receiving at the end of the day when they close and everything's settled compared to what they originally asked for on their market when they hit the market. And the trend
Interesting.
is it's very clear, right?
Yeah.
Time is the enemy of receiving what you want because every single day that you stay on the market longer, your odds of receiving a full price offer or an offer closer to your full price diminishes by
Yeah.
quite a bit, especially in those first couple weeks, right? That slope is steeper in the first few weeks.
So let
So,
me ask you, yeah, could I ask a question
yeah,
on that?
please.
Yeah. So, because there's a, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, a good list price or a bad list price, right? And how does that play into this? Because if you put a too high a price on the home, how long does it take you to get that seller to drop their price to where, right? I mean, isn't that really what we're looking at here is,
It's it's a mix of a lot of things happening in the
yeah,
market. We see, yes, that it can be incredibly difficult to work a seller down to a reasonable number, and
right.
that's a skill. That is an absolutely developed skill. But having this data
Yeah.
and being able to show a seller what's
Yeah.
going to happen before they have to go through it
Mhm.
is incredibly useful.
I
So
love
what we want to try to do, what I always advise agents to do, is try not to put yourself in that position. Do everything you can to price it right. And again, this gets back to the idea of buying a listing, and you're competing against people who might be coming into that seller's house and telling them it's worth fifty
Yeah.
thousand dollars more than it is. It's very difficult once you've made the mistake of pricing it first, upfront too high
Mhm.
to reverse that.
Yeah, right. How do you tell them they're not going to get their cake and eat it too?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I know. I'll give so in the example here, and just a real quick one is, sometimes when I got into the situation where where the seller had unrealistic expectations, I would enlist help. And what I mean by that is, I would do a realtor open where I would invite other agents in to give. So I'd get the listing and say, listen, we're going to do an open ahead of time. I'm going to invite a bunch of agents in, and I'm going to have them put down what they think their price opinion is. Use
Yeah.
that super successfully. And then, you're at one price, you got 15 to 20 other agents come in and tell you it's at this price. It's pretty effective tool for right pricing it. Then you back it up with this kind of a chart or this kind of a conversation that says, listen, we can start here, but in the end, you're going to get to here, if it's not priced properly. And we've already got some indication it's not priced properly. Let's
Yeah.
adjust quickly, right?
Yes, and speed is everything. You see that the drop off is steep in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, you're losing again. This is my market, so this is Denver Metro data
Yeah.
from last year. This is about 51,000 listings that I analyzed and put on this chart.
Mhm.
If you're 2 weeks in, you're down about 2.5%, which
Boom.
I'm really good at doing small percentages like that in my head off of sale prices. Being in the industry. So,
Yeah.
at our average price in the Denver metro area at about 600 grand. I mean, this is almost 15, $20,000 that we're
Goes
looking at
fast.
just by pricing it too high in the first 2 weeks. Now, let's say we list it, you know, 7,000 or $10,000 lower than what the seller feels they really need, and we get more
Yeah.
we get more traction, uh, the seller oftentimes nets more than waiting on the market and doing multiple price reductions over time.
Agreed. Karen brings up a really good point in the chat. She says, pricing is crucial, but isn't it true buyers never expect to pay full price? I think there's a time. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think on that, Cooper? What do you think?
That's great. I can tell you last year, I don't think I had a single buyer out of maybe 30 buyers that we represented pay full price. I don't think I had a single seller receive full price. But that's because it's all a matter of what strategy you're utilizing. In my market, a lot of people want that top dollar, right? There's a lot of people pushing for what is the maximum yield I can achieve on my investment of this house.
Yeah.
The problem with that mindset is you can always overprice a house. Very easy to overprice a house. But in an open market, I believe you can really never underprice a house. Let me give you an example. Just this week, my team put a listing on the market. It was a fixer-upper home, and we ended up convincing them to go down a lot lower, 50 to $100,000 lower than what they were previously asking. It was an inherited listing. It had expired with a different agent who couldn't sell it. We picked it up and we said, look, you need to go low because what's important here is drumming up attention. We need lots of showings because this is a unique property that we got to get people's eyes on it. They got to come here to understand. If we list your house at 600 again, nobody's going to come. But
Yeah.
if we list it at 550 and it's the lowest price that we've seen in the neighborhood in years, I think we're going to get a lot of people. So we listed it at 550. First week we had 7 or 8 showings in the first couple of days, first weekend, just this past weekend. It's now under contract for more than asking price
Yeah.
because we had 5 offers. So you can't underprice because the market will bring it back up. But if
Yeah,
you
that's interesting.
overprice,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to bring it back down automatically. You have to bring it back down,
Yeah.
and then you're probably going to receive less than that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, if you overprice, you got to convince two people to change what they're doing. You got to convince a buyer to go up, and you got to convince a seller to come down.
Yes,
Whereas on the other side, it's the market that's going to drive the price, and the market will tell you very quickly what it's worth. Because here's the other thing too, for those people who've been in the business a long time, the first day you put that house on the property, you'll have people coming through who've been looking for months. They've seen all the stuff.
mhm,
They know the value point. They will tell you instantly if your property is priced properly or not. I mean, that's kind of a real key. Hey, I have a question for all our attendees, a poll question, because I think we're going to touch on this just in a second. But for all of you guys, take a look at this poll question. What is the most important statistic for effectively pricing a home for sale? We're going to get Cooper's opinion here in a second, but everybody go ahead and take a look at this poll question. Grab onto it. See if you can answer it. If you're on your phones, you probably might have to swipe to another page, but go ahead and look at this poll question and answer what you think. You get one answer, it's all anonymous. What is the most important statistic for effectively pricing a home for sale? Is it the property owner's opinion? I think it's worth $1 million.
that's the property owner's most important
That
statistic.
is the property owner's most.
Yes,
I've spent 50 years here. Mortgage rates. How about the number of homes on the market? How about recent sold comparables? Or how about this? Your social media marketing views. What's the most important statistic for effectively pricing a home for sale? All right, I'm going to go ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end and share. And look at that. Our viewing audience, I think, got this pretty close to right.
pretty smart.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
right on. Yeah. Recent home sold comparables. But let's think about that. When you got to go in to a situation and you've got a seller who says they want a higher price, how do you use your statistics? How do you use comparables? Do you drag the seller out to show them the house down the street for sale? I mean, what do you do?
Absolutely. Do all of it, everything you can,
Yeah.
um, in within reason, right? We don't want to overwhelm the seller, but we also want to provide them with everything that they need to be successful. So my approach to, a CMA or a comparative market analysis uh, is that I want it to be multifold. I want to, one, do the comparable analysis. What's happening in the neighborhood? What do we know from homes that sold recently? Then I want to do a competitive analysis. What is going on with the homes currently on the market right now? In markets like these that I have here, it's incredibly important not only to consider what is sold in the past 6 months, but also what's happening now. Who are we competing against? Is the house next door the same floor plan with an updated bathroom and a finished basement, and you want to price higher than them? Why? Right?
Mhm.
So asking those questions and kind of getting the seller to work through it with you is crucial, especially from a buyer's standpoint. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Put the seller in the buyer's shoes. So that's the competitive analysis.
Yeah.
Three, I do what I call an algorithmic analysis, right? What do the numbers say is the value of your home? Every single listing I go on, I look at the Zestimate, the Redfin estimate, the Homes.com estimates, the collateral mortgage, all of the different, the CoreLogic AVM. I pull all of that and I pull averages and I show it to the buyer or to the seller. And I say, seller, look, a lot of these they're just numbers. They haven't seen your house. We all know this estimate isn't super accurate. It's not going to give us exactly what your home is
Well,
worth.
they think it is though.
They do. But I take it into account
Yeah, yeah.
because they do
I
think
love
it
that.
is accurate. And you know who else thinks it's accurate is buyers. So I say, look, these numbers, they may not be accurate because I've seen your home and I think it's probably this and not this, but a buyer is looking at Zillow and a buyer's looking at Redfin and a buyer's looking at homes.com. They're looking at those numbers and seeing that as a source of truth. So we want to work those into our analysis as well. Great question from Donna. I do use RPR. RPR is an incredible tool. Um, so that's number three is our algorithmic. So we've got our competitive, our comparable, and our algorithmic. And then, of course, the market analysis. So step four is when we back up, we zoom out, we say, seller, here's what's going on in the market numbers wise, right? What's going on in your town? What's going on in your city, in your zip code, in your county, maybe even just in your metro area? Uh, because we can see things change at different levels. So what's happening in one neighborhood definitely may not be happening in another neighborhood.
I think one of the neatest pieces of advice I ever received from my first manager, this was back in the day, Cooper, you'd love this. So all the listings, like people go out now and they're like, oh, I'm going to go to homes.com, realtor.com, Zillow, I'm going to look at all this stuff. No, that's not how it was when I got in the business
Yeah.
back in 1991. Literally you got a telephone book. In fact, there's people on this call have never even seen like a Yellow Pages telephone book. It's like that the biggest, textbook you got in college. Every 2 weeks a new book came out and it was the multiple listing service
Mhm.
printed a book with all the homes in it with these little thumbnail pictures and spreads. And so that's how you got your information. And it was
Mhm.
already, it came out every 2 weeks. It was already old when you got it. Some of the houses may have already been sold. And so, but my manager said, you want to become an expert? You look at 100 homes in the area you want to service, in your neighborhood, your community, your village. You look at 100 homes for sale, and you'll be an expert. Your brain will do it. Your brain will understand
Yep.
value, fit, finish, size, compare. You start to do it. So, but what you're saying too is not only that, which can lead you to gut feeling, but then back it up with the stats also.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And turn your sellers into an expert too. If the best tactic I've ever seen to get a seller to accept a realistic number that they haven't, been able to accept
Yeah.
is have them arrive at that number themselves.
Hmm.
Walk through that comparable analysis with them. Sit at their dinner table, bring it out, print it on paper. I take a CMA and I have a blue pen or a red pen and I write all over it in front of them, right? We're going to do the math together.
Yeah.
So having the seller arrive at that conclusion themselves is a really useful psychological tool to make them understand and accept that it's probably the correct conclusion.
Right on. Let
So,
me, oh, go ahead.
Toby,
because
well, I wanted to say we're getting some great chats and
yeah,
discussion
yeah,
in about where to find some stats. So I thought it might be a good time
let's do
to
that.
answer where can we find these statistics. And yes, Jody, we've got our comparable analysis. That's sold listings. We've got our competitive analysis. That's listings on the market. Algorithmic listings. That's, what do the algorithms say? The automated valuation models, or AVMs, you'll hear them called in the industry. And then the market analysis is the last piece. What's going on with the market? What are our broader trends? So, where can we find this data? That's the number one question I get asked all the time.
Here we
Well,
go.
there's a lot of good resources out there. Number one, your MLS. Most MLSs are associated with your realtor association if you're a realtor. If not, a lot of MLSs put out public statistics, gold mines of information. This is just simple stuff that you can start tracking, that you can present to your sellers and to your buyers to help them understand the market. So here's an example of an infographic that my primary MLS, RE Colorado, which is the largest MLS in Colorado and in the Denver metro area. This is an infographic that they put out every month. It's got some basic information. It tells you what the change is month over month or year over year, and can help provide some simple statistics for you to share. Um, this is also great for posting on social media, right? If you want to throw up and say, "Hey, what is going on in the market right now, followers? Here's some interesting stats for you. What are your thoughts?" Comment down below if you want to do the YouTube thing, you can do that.
Yeah,
So your MLS, also, your realtor association, oftentimes they'll be associated with your MLS. Here we're not, but in most places they are. So a lot of times realtor associations or local associations put out their own market trends analysis. And a lot of times it's not just giving you the numbers, but they will actually give you commentary.
yeah,
So use that commentary. What are the professionals saying? What are experts in my market saying about the market? They're taking these numbers and they're turning it into stories. How are they doing it? And how can I do it too?
yeah.
And that leads me to my third point, which this is one of my favorite quotes. I've heard it misattributed to Bill Gates a lot. I couldn't find any proof that he's actually said it, but it's a great quote nonetheless. I always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. And that is the best intro approach to stats, is that someone else has already done the work for you. So
Yeah,
here's a
love it.
simple workflow for you to try it out. Input, take other people's work because they already did it for you. Google search, ask your favorite AI assistant. Say, hey, what's the latest commentary in this market? What are the professionals saying? Okay. Take that, put your own commentary on it, put your own spin. Say, well, in my experience, the experts are saying this, but I just had a listing where this happened, or I just had a buyer pay over asking price, or put in your own commentary, your experience and your expertise, and you output your local market analysis. You become the branded local expert. Mary Smith's local market analysis for, in this case, I picked Norfolk, Virginia. I, Mary Smith, am now your local go-to expert.
Love it.
Toby, I want to ask you. Let's role play a little bit real quick.
Sure. I'm ready.
All right, I'm your neighbor, and you're a realtor. And hey, Toby, how's it going, Mister Realtor?
It's going great. Get a little snowy out today, and so I'm getting the big heavy jacket back out again, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, and what do you do for work?
I'm in real estate.
Oh,
Uh,
how's
yeah.
the market?
Oh, well, it really depends.
Yeah, that is the most commonly asked question of real estate agents. How's the market?
How's the market?
We
Yeah, what
have
is
to
it?
refine that answer. And if you stay on top of this stuff and you practice that every week, every month, you'll have such a good answer to that you will become that local expert. And that was great job
Yeah.
acting on your part. That was horrible scripting on my part. I've never been a playwright, but I think it shows a good example of what what we get
Well,
asked all the
because
time.
Because I think what you just did there was powerful. This is where you're using statistics to become the expert. They're asking you, how's the market? And if you can come back with say, well, it really depends. Depends on the price range. Homes in your price range right now, you know what? There's been a move. They're selling on an average about 38 days on the market right now, as long as they're priced, da 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 da. But you get up in that, $700,000 price range. Some of those homes have been sitting for 3, 4 months.
Hmm.
And then once again, you get at 1.5 million, and we can't keep them on the shelves. Here's why, and here's who buyers are coming in from overseas or whatever it is. You have an answer like that when somebody says, how's the market? And you make it local to them,
Hmm.
you win.
Pull them in. I mean, the wrong answer is always, it's a little slow, but it's heating up. That's not engaging, you know. We really want to pull them in and make them interested. Say, oh, well, in our neighborhood, here's what's happening. We've had 5 listings sell in the last 6 months, and uh, only 2 of them actually got their asking price. And on average, the sellers are actually receiving 5% less than their asking price. So we're seeing a lack of buyer motivation and demand in our neighborhood, combined with probably some prevalent overpricing from sellers. So that's really what's going on, right? That's
Perfect.
the interesting, the meat that people really want to know.
Yeah, and then you become it. And then you talk about that, like you said, use your statistics that drive a story that allow you to be that focal point. Well, Cooper says, when
Yes.
somebody else says Cooper says, then you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Love that.
at a higher level, it's really useful to build your credibility. I've had the pleasure of being able to talk to media a lot, become that that go-to resource for my market.
Well,
Uh,
you're
you know,
here, right? Yeah, right on.
I'm
Love it.
here. When you search my name, if you ask an LLM or an AI, a ChatGPT, what's going on in Denver real estate market, you're probably going to get a quote from me. Like that is really important for credibility as well. Obviously, that's kind of a higher level. That's not something that you should shoot for to start. To start, you focus on becoming that person for your clients, for your friends, your family, your
Mhm.
sphere of influence. Build your credibility that way. It is such a phenomenal tool. It has granted me incredible opportunities. The opportunity to be here and share it with you. I've gotten to do so many things in the industry. I've even been leaned on by the government. Right now, I should say this quietly. I'm an expert witness in a Department of Justice fair housing case because of my expertise in the Denver real estate market. So just phenomenal opportunities that come with knowing this stuff.
How awesome is that? So let me add this. We're gonna go get close to wrapping it up here. I got just one more question, then one
Sure.
follow up. What do you think? We've talked a lot about a lot, and in these kind of webinars, you can't get super deep. We get pretty broad. I'd
Hmm.
love to have you come back and we can talk some deeper stuff.
Sure.
But what do you think the top three insights that people should take away from today? What would you tell them? I mean, what are the three things? If you can do anything, here's the three things.
Yeah. Number one, lean on the work that other people have already done. If you're brand new in the market, right, we don't have that experience yet. Let's build our expertise. We can compress expertise into a short timeline. You could become an expert in something in a matter of months or weeks. It does not take decades like experience takes. So lean on expertise and lean on the work that others have done. That's number one. Number two, show up prepared when you're talking to your sellers. It is so important, especially in a market that is not as favorable to sellers, to be ultra realistic with them and have the stats and the facts to back it up. Uh, every listing appointment I go on, I am less concerned with winning the listing. That's not my mindset. Switch your mindset to I'm going to educate the seller and I'm going to walk out of there knowing that I gave them all the information they need to be successful. If they're smart, they'll list with you. If not, they may go with somebody else. If they go with somebody else who bought the listing,
Yeah,
you're going
it
to get
might be
it
a
when it
blessing. It
expires.
might be a blessing in 3 months when they come begging you to
Yeah,
take the listing.
you'll get the call eventually. And it's very hard, when you're new in the business and you're hungry, like you're gonna do everything you can to get that business. Oftentimes, I mean, the reality is the best tool. It is just, and a lot of sellers appreciate it when you're honest with them more so than when you just, give them that confirmation bias.
Waste their time. Yeah, don't waste the time.
Yeah. And the third thing I'll say is learn. Just continue to learn. Have an open mind. Uh, I got my real estate license at 18. I didn't know any of this. I went to college and I thought I wanted to be in finance and be on Wall Street. I didn't pay attention to any of this. I did not care. But once I learned it, I started to have so much fun with it, that it's become a critical part of my career now. So uh, be open-minded, be eager to learn, seek out resources, read a lot, write a lot, talk a lot, have those conversations, and really go for a deep understanding and expertise rather than experience.
Well, I think that's what I got really the most out of this was be an expert, right? Expert has power. Experience is great. If you have expert and experience, that's the whole magic, that's the
Yeah.
whole. But at least I think being an expert, like you, I mean, 24 years old, and through this entire webinar, I just thought of you as an expert. I think you hit every point, you hit every piece, and so it can be done. And I think you're a shining example. So, Cooper, I want to say thank you for being here and appreciate your time. Uh,
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. To the audience and to everyone at Kaplan, I really appreciate it. If you want to keep in touch with me, I've got my email on the bottom of that slide there. I believe Kaplan's staff will be sending it out as well. And then I've actually got a free newsletter that it's very focused on the Colorado market. So it may not, the statistics that I share may not be super applicable to your market, but it'll give you ideas for how to talk about the market, how to approach different statistics, how do I frame these numbers into shareable stories with people. So definitely go check that out. Like I said, it's 100% free. You can find it at cooperthayer.com/newsletter. You can always email me at cooperthayer@kw.com with your questions. Love to be in touch. Thanks, guys.
awesome. Thanks, Cooper. Thank you, everybody.